right, good evening, everyone. Welcome. It is Monday, January 12th, 2026. It is just a little bit after 5:30 p.m., and this is a public meeting of the School Board of West Bend Joint School District Number 1. More than 24 hours prior to the meeting, notice of the time, place, date, and subject matter of this meeting was posted at the entrance doors of the Education Service Center and on the district website. It was also sent to the West Bend Community Memorial Library, the Daily News, WRYU, the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and other media sources that have requested notice of our meetings. I'm going to ask our superintendent to please confirm this meeting was properly posted.
Yes, it was.
Great. Thank you. Please rise and join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We recognize a quorum of our board. 5 members are present. Dr. Temez and Mr. Jenkins are absent. We look forward to seeing them in a future meeting. Next on our agenda is to consider approval of this agenda, which was circulated in advance. I'd move to approve this agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kelly. Motion and second to approve our agenda. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. We first move to our recognition. Our only recognition tonight is a state recognition for East Girls Cross Country. And I understand Cara Moran might be here to introduce. Come on up to the podium.
Where you want to stand?
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Superintendent Wimmer, why don't you direct our folks where to stand? We want to be sure that those watching perfect. They're good where you are. Perfect.
All right, so thank you, School Board. We really appreciate this opportunity. I've been coaching for 15 years, and I could tell you many stories of how important high school athletics is. And I want to acknowledge I am not the head coach. Rob Sanborn is our head coach, and he is the brains, the mastermind behind our team. But I'm happy tonight to get to recognize Chloe. Before I talk about her athletic achievements, I want to just say that she's a marvelous human being. Chloe is kind and caring and creative. She cares about her teammates probably more than herself. If she comes to us with a concern, it's usually about one of her teammates. Overall, she's just been awesome to have on the team. So it's her junior year. She is a competitive athlete in all of her sports, cross country, basketball, and track. She has an ability to push herself to the edge in running if she understands what she has to do to reach her goal. You never want to have Chloe behind you in a race. If she can see you, she will beat you every single time. From the middle of her freshman year onward, Chloe has finished first for our team for every race. So that's the rest of freshman year, all of sophomore year, all of junior year. In October, she earned second team Glacier Trails All-Team Conference, and she holds the freshman, sophomore, and junior fastest 5K record at East. And with 1 year to go, she is currently number 3rd overall fastest 5K for the East girls. At sectionals in October, Chloe knew she had to fight like crazy to make it to state. She was seeded 7th, and the 5 top individual girls got to go. They all had faster times than she did. So she was fighting with a number of girls to get to that spot, and it's just what she did. She cut 25 seconds off of her PR, her personal record, which is incredible at her level from her freshman year, and she got the 5th spot, securing her spot for the state meet. She is now only the 2nd girl in the last 40 years at East High School to make it to state twice in cross country. So she deserves a big round of congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. We really appreciate it very much. So, and we'll see you next year as a senior too, right? Junior, senior, we're looking forward to all that. Thank you so much. Next on our agenda are student representative reports. And so I think our student representatives are, hey, come on up if you'd like, yeah. It's fantastic. And again, we see you regularly, but for our crowd, if you'd introduce yourselves as you speak, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Haley Kister, and I'm a senior at East West Bend High School. This month is School Board Appreciation Month, so on behalf of the student body, we're thankful for you as our school board. Semester exams start this week, so good luck to everyone that has exams. Juniors juniors will be hearing more about ACT test prep information during their junior class meeting, and then we'll get to practice ACT skills during home-based time. Methodized ACT test prep is available for all students to practice independently and prepare for the ACT. Gearing Up Night will be on Wednesday, January 21st, where the 8th graders will be getting information on things about the high school and what next year potentially looks like for them. The Violins of Hope concert occurred on Thursday, January 8th. MISO brought in violins that have been hidden, kept, and restored throughout the years from the Holocaust. WBHS Orchestra, Choir, and Band played music from Jewish artists, with both Bella and I participating in the concert. Some of the violins had engravings on them, such as the David Star, which were truly amazing to look at. I'm going to hand it over to Bella now.
Hi, I'm Bella, a junior at East. So on clubs and co-curriculars, East NHS sold Puppy Chow in the month of December and raised about $1,500. All the funds will be donated to the full shelf food pantry as voted on by the club. And the high school automotive course, advanced automotive course, collected more than $350, and they are also donating it to the full shelf food pantry. The West Bend debate team is hosting a tournament on the weekend of January 17th for the surrounding areas. Crew hosted a coffee house tonight to prepare underclassmen for semester exams. I was there right before this from 3 to 5. With this event, crew members were able to help in the library to study and prep for exams, along with supplying snacks and refreshments. Rehearsals for our spring musical are up and going. We've been hard at work with choreography, learning our music, and making sure we have our lines down for our performances on Valentine's weekend. I personally was shown parts of my costume already, and I get a bedazzled microphone. It's like green bedazzled because that's my color. And I have a super cool costume, so I'm really excited for it. For athletics, winter sports are in full swing. Some sports that have been working hard and playing hard are ski, snowboard, basketball, gymnastics, bowling, boys intramural volleyball, hockey, swimming, and wrestling. We had 4 West students sign their letters of intent to compete at the college level in athletics. Congratulations to Layla Reichenberger, who will play softball at Vitterboro University, Riley Weber, who will also play softball at UW Oshkosh, Riley Failing, who will compete in track and field at St. Louis University, and Drew Gundrum, who will be swimming at South Dakota State University. On December 15th, East Booster Club hosted a cookie walk in the East Cafeteria from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. There was a coloring contest for kids, and it was a great way to wrap up the last week before winter break. And then lastly, the West Bend East varsity dance team is excited to announce that their upcoming annual fundraiser, Dancing with Our Stars, will be held this year on Friday, February 20th at 6:30 p.m. in the high school auditorium.
Okay, so this week's shadow, I'm going to do my AP Biology teacher, Mr. Wani. So I just wanted to take a minute and give a little shout out to my wonderful AP Biology teacher. Sure.
Oh, yes.
Sorry. He has been such a good teacher to work with in science. He's super funny and makes learning more enjoyable. One of the things I appreciate most is the hands-on lab experience he provides, like the enzyme lab we did earlier this year or last Friday when we were looking under a microscope of an onion root tip undergoing mitosis. As a person interested in science, these opportunities have deepened my understanding of the material in ways that wouldn't be possible without an amazing teacher like him. His dedication to us as students and science education is truly commendable. He is easy to talk to and ask questions when you aren't understanding a topic. I'm so grateful that he has been my teacher this year, and thank you for listening to great things happening at our school.
Thank you. So it's a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. We appreciate the report and keeping us connected, and also to Chloe and Ms. Brand, we thank you for coming as well. So this is the time where I always remind everyone in the crowd this is a public meeting, and we absolutely would enjoy having you for the whole meeting. But we also know that it's a school night, and so if there are other things going on, we're not offended if you leave. So stay if you'd like, but again, Rick, thank you for coming. We appreciate it very much.
It's exam week. They all need to go home
Okay.
and study.
There are 1 or 2 things to do. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. We appreciate it very much. Next on our agenda is public participation. I don't have any public participation comment cards. I don't see any in the audience, so we're going to move to our consent agenda. We have a number of items on the consent agenda. Minutes from the December 15th regular board meeting and the executive session. We have no contracts to approve, 1 resignation, 0 retirements, an authorization to expend the Jackson Trust Fund as part of the Jackson School construction project, An item regarding the sale of the building, the former Department of Public Works garage, the new Jackson Elementary site, fiber optic extension agreement, the summer school 2026 program plan, the acceptance of a monetary donation from the West Bend Public Schools Foundation, and disbursements posted to January 2, 2026. So a variety of items on the consent agenda. Are there any questions on items on the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, I'd move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second? Mr. Pickler seconds. Thank you very much. Motion and second to approve the consent agenda. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. We move on to action items. And so we have one action item tonight, and that's the audited financial statements for 2024, 2025, effective June 30th, 2025, and fund balance designation. And Mr. Hansen's here to do an introduction of a familiar business partner to us.
Good evening. This is Mr. Brian Grunwald from Clifton Larson Allen. He is here to bring together the culmination of many months of work and communication. He's probably sick of talking to me and our comptroller, Julie Marks, in the back, but every year the audit lasts quite a while, and we've talked about that before. We've had some questions, sometimes around, boy, an audit being approved 6 months after the end of the fiscal year, but as we've talked about, it's pretty common in especially school districts and public sector, a little bit different from some of the private sector areas. So the audit itself, you each have a physical copy in front of you. There are electronic copies available in board docs for the public, as well as the fund balance designations. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Grunwald here, and I'll be here to help answer questions at the end, but he's going to go through a little presentation of the work that went into this year's audit.
Great.
Sounds good. Well, thank you very much. And before I get started, I do want to thank Lenny and Julie and your team for the cooperation and assistance that we received throughout the audit process. It is a lengthy process, but certainly goes very smoothly with all the help that we received throughout that process. So thank you. In terms of the audit, as Lenny mentioned, there's a few different audit documents. I just wanted to start out by giving you an overview of the different reports that are included within your audit documents. The first there being the auditor's report on the basic financial statements, commonly referred to as the audit opinion. As you can see on the slide here, that does have an unmodified opinion, essentially means that I believe that your financial statements are complete and accurate in accordance with professional standards. So that's exactly what you should hope or expect to see. In addition, there's also a report on internal control. As part of the audit process, we do consider the organization's internal control structure. Think about that as how financial transactions are handled, how you handle and process payroll, for example, how you handle cash receipts, for example. We do not give an opinion on internal control, but when we become aware of conditions or findings, we are required to communicate those. So you do see the reference to finding 2025-1, preparation of the financial statements. That is a repeat finding. It's very common for school districts, and I would expect that you would continue to see that in the future. The purpose of that is really to disclose that we, as your auditors, are also the ones who are preparing your audited financial statements. And then last but not least, because of the federal and state aid that you receive, we also have an auditor's report on compliance. Again, from a federal and state aid perspective, we do select individual federal and state programs. We perform testing on a sample basis of those programs. Happy to report no issues, no concerns, and we have issued an unmodified opinion with regards to your federal and state aid. Oops. Then this next slide, included within your executive audit summary, there is a section there that's labeled formal required communication. I like to refer to that as the governance communication. That includes information that we are required to communicate as part of the audit process. The topics that you see on this slide, the language that you see included within that letter is very consistent with what you've seen in the past. I'm just mentioning it because, again, it is required communication. There are a few subtle differences if you get into things like accounting practices and accounting policies. For example, there's some language in there with regards to governmental accounting standards and a new standard that we implemented during this year's audit process. We implemented that. It's GASB statement number 101, which deals with compensated absences. We did that because we're required to, so all school districts throughout the state that are following governmental accounting standards are also following that standard. And one other item that I just wanted to point out, you'll see the reference to audit adjustments in the middle of the slide. All adjustments that I'm aware of are included within your financial statements. So again, I do believe that those are complete and accurate. Okay, then I just wanted to step back and talk about some of the key financial information. So this is a very high level. Just wanted to start out talking about your general fund and your fund balance. So again, think of the reserves that you have left at the end of the year. I like this particular slide because it gives you some perspective of what your fund balance levels have been for the last few years and what kind of fluctuation you're seeing. As you can see on this slide, what sticks out to me, very steady growth, not a lot of fluctuation. And when we get into the individual categories here, just want to point out, if you look at the committed funds, again, those are funds that the board has chosen or the district has chosen to set aside. There's additional detail of those on pages 51 and 52 within your financial statements. You can see at the end of the year, 4.8 million has been set aside. The most significant piece of that really relates to the self-insurance health reserves. In addition, we also have restricted funds. Again, those are funds that, based on what you've received, there's different rules and requirements that you have to follow. So the amounts that you have there, the $299,000, relates to different grant programs that you have to follow the terms of those grants. And then the last category, unassigned, that's the amount that's available for working capital and contingency reserves. And again, just want to point out how that has fluctuated over time. You can see you're ending the year at 15.4 million. I don't have totals on here, but overall at the end of 2025, you ended the year at 20.6 million in your general fund. This next slide just gives you some perspective of the overall fund balance levels, and from a benchmarking perspective, we like to compare that to the amount of actual expenditures that are flowing through your budget and your financial statements. You can see that we're focusing on both unassigned, the blue line, as well as also calculating that for your total fund balance reserves. Again, you can see how those balances have fluctuated over time. If I start out focusing on that total category, that orange line, extremely consistent in terms of what your overall fund balance levels have been, consistent with the overall dollars that we saw on the previous slide. In terms of the unassigned category, that blue line, that has increased slightly. If you relate that back to the previous slide, your unassigned fund balance levels have come up a little bit the last few years. Again, you can see that here flowing through in the percentages as well, ending the year at 17.1%. So when I step back and relate that to your policy focuses on that unassigned category. It references 10 to 20% in terms of your fund balance level, so well within your policy. The one thing that I do want to point out, just as a reminder, from an audit standpoint, I feel like we're always looking backwards, so we're looking at your actual expenses and looking backwards versus your policy, which talks about your budget and looking forwards. So just wanted to point that out. Again, the context there, or the messages, is that really strong in terms of your overall fund balance levels and financial condition. Any thoughts on that before I move on? Okay. Then I just wanted to give you a snapshot here of some of your other governmental funds, and again, giving you a little bit of history for comparative purposes. Starting out at the top, looking at your debt service funds. Again, these are dollars that are restricted for future principal and interest payments. And you can see you ended 2025 at just under 11.3 million. That is up a little bit. It does include a premium on debt in terms of the numbers, what we've presented within your financial statements. Then we move into the special revenue funds. You can see the balances there. Again, those are restricted for the different programs and activities. And you'll see the reference to food service, community service, and donations being your Fund 21. And then last but not least is the capital projects. I do want to point out that the capital projects amounts here, that does represent the combination of your capital projects fund and your Fund 46. So I just lumped those together on this slide, ending the year at 83.7 million. And again, obviously up because of the referendum and the referendum project that you just went through. So whenever we look at those capital projects, think of timing of when you issue your debt versus the timing of when you spend those funds. And again, ending the year at 83.7 million. And then similarly, financially, I also like to look at long-term debt. As you can see, your history year at the end of 2024 ended at 4.4 million of outstanding general obligation debt. During 2025, you did repay approximately 4.1 million of principal. And then again, you did issue the general obligation debt of $80 million for the referendum. So certainly excitement with regards to the referendum and where you're at with that. We'll be tracking the dollars and the activity for that, the outstanding debt, as we move forward in future audits. Then I also just wanted to take a minute and talk about the regulatory environment. I think every year I come up here and I talk about regulatory standards and what's new and what's in the pipeline. As I mentioned previously, there was a new standard that was effective and implemented for 2025's audit. That was statement number 101. As you can see on the slide here, there are a few standards that have also been approved and have been issued. We will make sure that we continue to share information with the district, be proactive, and implement these standards as you're required to in future years. And that is all I had. So if anyone has any other questions on any of the audit documents, I know that's a pretty high-level overview, but I'd certainly be happy to entertain any other questions or thoughts.
Thank you. Start with any questions. Mr. Pickler.
Sure. You knew I was going to ask one. I'm curious if you have any school district clients that don't have the financial reporting deficiency. Just kind of curious what it would, I would assume you'd have to have a CPA on staff.
So to give some perspective on that, CLA audits over 100 school districts in the state. I work with approximately 12. I have one that does not include that finding, but I would say it's a unique situation. It's someone who actually worked for us for like 12 years and then went to work for a school district, so he could prepare those himself if he wanted to.
Okay, yeah.
So, but yeah, very unique, and most would have that finding.
Okay. And then had one more on that last slide, the capital asset disclosure pronouncement that's coming through.
Yep.
Will that have any implications for us, particularly with, having schools that are going to be for sale and, not part of our ongoing operations
Yeah.
in a year or two?
Yeah, really, really good question. Okay, so when I think of the impact of this standard and I think of your budget and how you operate on a daily, monthly basis, what flows through your accounting records, there will be absolutely no changes with regards to that. Any proceeds you'll record, any disbursements or things that you purchase, you'll record as expenses. No changes with regards to that. As we go through the audit process, we will ask additional information with regards to potential sales and the timing of where you're at, when we may be adding some footnote disclosures that talk about and disclose some of that activity, so.
Yeah, just speculating, any like revaluation to fair market value or anything like that?
No.
No, okay.
No,
okay.
no.
Particularly as you're getting close to a sale or something like that, I was just curious.
Mr. Pickler beat me to the punch. As you know, I always ask annually that question about the preparation of the financial statements, so I have no other questions. Board members, any other questions? So this is an action item. Any other information that you'd like to discuss?
No, other than that, I understand it is high level, so if any other questions do happen to come up in the future, certainly feel free to reach out, and I'd be happy to get back to you.
Great. All right, well, board members, let me go back to my notes here. So, yes, so this is an action item. So, since there are no further questions, I'd move to accept and file the 2024-2025 audited financial statements and approve the fund balance designations as presented. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Pickler. Motion and second to accept and file the 24-25 audited financial statements and approve the fund balance designations as presented. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. We appreciate your work and your partnership. Thank you very much.
Sounds good.
Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
tonight. All right, that was our only action item tonight. We're going to move to reports, and our first report is a construction report and an introduction of our owner's representatives. And so, thank you, Tim, for taking the podium.
All right, good evening, board
evening.
members. So this evening, we have a couple items for an update, but first of all, I would like to ask the Huffman Keel team to come on up here. Huffman Keel Partners is our owner's representative on the Jackson and High School project. And we'd like just a chance for you to put a name to a face and introduce themselves to the board tonight. So I will turn over to you guys.
Yeah, great. My name is Jeff Dusterbeck with Huffman Keel Partners. My role is a project executive on the project. I come from a background, we all come from pretty diverse backgrounds. In the construction industry, I came from a general contractor background. So my role on the project will really, first and foremost, letting Jen and Tim do their day job and let us focus on the referendum and really be the eyes and ears for the district. So I'll be working day to day with Michelle, and we'll be tagging each other in and out and just making sure the needs of the district are met. So.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us meet you today. I'm Michelle Hammerling. I will be acting as kind of the day-to-day for the district, focusing on budget, schedule, and just coordination efforts. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Alex Crowley, also Huffman Keel. I'm more of a site person. I'll be visiting and you'll be seeing site reports from me and stuff like that, so for what's going on site.
I'm Mike Huffman. I'll be kind of a background person here on the project. I'm here to support our team. I feel really good about a strong team we have here for your school district. I'll just be lending my expertise, having worked with developing school districts, school projects since 2000. So had the opportunity to work with over 20 Wisconsin school districts, and I'll try to lend some experience to our team, but otherwise, these are your key players. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, unless there are other questions you have of any of them.
Anyone? Questions? We reserve the right to ask them along the way.
Right.
You can ask later on
They
too,
will.
but I assume
They
there would
will.
be one tonight.
I just wanted to say, from our perspective, the board approved the contract, and immediately the next day, the team's on our doorstep participating in meetings and availing themselves to us and our full team. So it's been a noticeable and welcome change to have them in at the table as we undertake the two largest projects that are on our doorstep. So it's very much appreciated.
And I will say appreciate it. Thank you very much. We knew that your firm is experienced with school district projects, and so I appreciate you bringing that into comments. Thank you for that.
All right, then I'm going to move on real quickly with a couple of brief updates as we move forward. So one of the projects that our HKP team is working with us on is the Jackson project. As you know, that project has been in front of you for design and so forth. You've seen some renderings. Those plans have been submitted to the state of Wisconsin, being a large commercial project that gets reviewed at the state level. It also gets sent to the local entities here also. We've been in contact with Colin at inspections, and also the fire department around some different pieces as we look at that. The project has been out to bid. Bids were due already, and the Findorf team is actively reviewing, seeking out questions from the team you see to the left here, questions from me, from our architects. And our Findorf team will be bringing back to the district leadership this week a where are we at after we get bids. Basically, what do those dollars look like? What are the trade packages? What came in high? What came lower? Who do we suggest for subcontractors, et cetera? Once we work through all that piece, we'll come back and we'll introduce what is known as the GMP, or the Guaranteed Maximum Price. If remember off of the Green Tree and the McLean project, that is then a contract change in our AIA contract with Findorf. They are the construction manager at risk. We hire them, they hire all of the subs, and they work for them at that point in time. So once that all gets rolling here, Findorf and other subcontractors are gearing at the punch. Justine, who's our project manager you have met, has told me March 2nd, I want to say at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. she wants to take over. She keeps promising we'll be out of the site at that point in time. However, with the approval this evening by the board to sell the metal above ground portion of that DPW building down at that site, that removal could start here in the next couple of weeks as we work with that buyer who did that at that point in time. Then a couple small updates here real quickly. Silverbrook and Badger, not a lot has happened in the last time since I've been up here, just that those projects are currently out at public bid. They're on our website on the Findorf Plan Room. Those bids are due on the 28th. We've had good amount of contractors visit the site on our contractor walkthrough days. And then we'll be starting to mobilize that project right at the end of this school year. And then the high school project is really at that behind the scenes piece where a lot of the public doesn't see the months of planning and research and conversations that go into the design piece. We are still actively engaging our high school teams, our department leaders, and our district leadership team here with our partners of EUA, Findorf, and HKP at this point. So that's kind of where we're at with construction. I'll answer any questions if there are any this evening.
Great. Board members, any questions? I said I reserve the right to ask a question of our owner's
I
representative.
knew there would be
so-
one tonight, Chris. Do I get to defer tonight too or not?
Sure,
Okay.
if you'd
All right,
like.
I like
Well-
this. I'm glad you guys are here tonight.
No, really, my question was, the board have been involved regularly along the way with the project, and but we don't do this for a living. You folks do this for a living, and I'm just curious if there's anything you see in our project that's unusual or weird or something that we should be paying extra attention to. It seems like it's large, but it's straightforward. I don't know if you care to comment if there's anything that you see that sets us apart or something that's unusual. This particular project. And I realize it's initial reaction. Nothing.
No, not necessarily.
Why don't you step up so that our folks at home can hear
Yeah,
too?
not necessarily. Again, we've gotten involved just in the last month, but I think what we've seen so far, we have a history of working with Findorff and Epstein-Ewen, and we rely on that great relationship that we have with them. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything at this time that we've seen, but I think we also know too that that's our job. If there is something that we do see, that we bring it up to the team. So.
Great, excellent. Please.
I'll add just a little bit because I do think your high school is a very interesting puzzle, right? I mean, it's certainly a puzzle in that you've got east and west. It's a puzzle in that the site doesn't work as well as it should. It's a puzzle in that where do I come in the building? There's some wayfinding issues to it. So I think there's a lot of potential there, and I think it's tremendously exciting. It's a lot different than going into a cornfield and building a new school. So we're pretty jazzed about this one.
That's great. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I was
Kelly?
really hoping someone was going to say something about the high school, so thank you. Like, someone needed to.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Board members, any other questions, comments? All right. Thank you for the update. And again, we appreciate the opportunity for the introduction. Great. I'll extend the same courtesy. This is an open meeting, so please stay as long as you want, but we understand if you have other things to do. We appreciate your attendance at tonight's meeting. Thank you. We are going to move to our next report, which is our curriculum committee report. And Melanie Aragot, our curriculum committee chair, will give the report. Melanie.
Yes, thank you. All right, so the curriculum committee met on January 6th to receive some updates on curriculum work happening across the district. We first heard an update on the new middle and high school math materials that are currently being used in grades 6 through 10, with Algebra 2 being planned for next school year. The teachers and administrators are continuing training and coaching, and early feedback is positive. Students are more engaged and more willing to participate in class. The committee also discussed areas teachers are still working on, including pacing, time management, technology use, and supporting different learning needs. Student feedback has also been encouraging, and teacher feedback will be gathered later this winter and again in the spring. We also received an update on the elementary literacy. The kindergarten through fourth grade are in their second year using the new program, and fifth grade is in its first year. The teachers report feeling more confident and better supported, and students are also showing growth in reading, writing, and overall stamina. Ongoing coaching and training will continue with a focus on meeting the needs of all learners. We heard an update on the K-12 music curriculum review. That work is nearing completion, and we will be receiving a full report at a future committee meeting. But the K-12 music department recommended that fifth grade music focus on general music to align with elementary standards, as that is moving back down to the elementary schools. And so with that, the fifth grade summer band camp will be discontinued. And specific instrument selection is recommended for 6th through 12th grades. So the music team continues to meet and develop this fifth grade curriculum. And then finally, the committee reviewed ongoing work around high-impact teaching strategies that help students better understand what they are learning and help teachers clearly see student progress. This work continues to guide curriculum decisions across the district. Overall, the committee appreciated the steady progress being made and the continued focus on improving learning experiences for all students.
Thank you. Appreciate the report. Board members, any questions on the curriculum committee report? We renew our thanks for the work of the curriculum committee, so thank you very much. We move then to the financial report. I believe Mr. Hanson is going to give that report. Good evening.
Good evening. Well, a gift for you is I'm losing my voice, so that'll keep this even quite a bit shorter. So there's a couple of primary items in this month's financial report. So first is the monthly fiscal performance review. So the first page, like you saw last month, has just a brief summary. A lot of this content stays the same from month to month as it just explains the report. below, you can see we focus here on funds 10 and 27 because they are the funds that are truly revenue limited. Then you'll see performance thus far this year in terms of the percent of the budget expensed compared to the same moment in time in prior years. You'll see for the most part we're pretty much right on schedule. Some of the areas like down here when you see like other is quite a bit ahead. The total amount, that's where you want to look down here. So the total amount is $100,000. And some of these categories have relatively small budgets. So it's good to kind of look at it from both angles, percentage of expensed as well as the dollars expensed. And then here you see our trend, which we talked about last time. And if you're on the electronic version, you see a little better, but our dark blue line, which is this year, is right where we expect it to be. In terms of revenue, we are at that low point for all school districts across the state because most state aid has not yet come in. And tax payments, actually, we got some today, but they're just starting to come in from our municipalities. So now you'll start to see that upswing. So here on the trend line, you see that we start to enter a period of time where we start to pick things up, but you are at where school districts tend to see their lowest point in cash flow. So revenue, you can see, is quite a bit behind percentage expensed, but that is always typical this time of year as the prior 4-year data shows there as well. And then we have our cash flow here, just as we said. We are this pink line right here, so we're just a little bit below where we were last year, but actually still quite a bit above where we had historically been in previous years. And then in addition that we put in this month's report that you'll see in every month's report moving forward is the year-to-date performance by fund of each fund that the district operates. The board historically had seen this quarterly, but we can easily provide this monthly, so we're going to continue to insert this into future monthly reports as well. Areas where you see an NA are funds that DPI requires to balance at the end of each year, so there really isn't a beginning or ending balance, so we just show the activity that's taken place in those funds. And then a few funds, you'll see a couple of them like Fund 39 and Fund 50 right now are technically at a deficit right now, but that's because that revenue comes in later in the year. So it's not like it's a checking account that's below zero balance. It's really just that that particular fund's revenue streams tend to be delayed, and we'll receive that revenue later on. Any questions about the performance report before I move on to the next topic?
Joe?
Just on the note of the substitute expenses being hired, I don't know if you'll know this off the top of your head. Is that more usage or did rates go up?
It's usage related, I will say, and I note that in the narrative up here that we're 2.2% higher than the same time last year. A month ago, it was 5.2. So actually, we're trending in the right direction. And it's somewhat seasonal, but also it can be very dependent on when a lot of the long-term leaves, like maternity leaves and that happen. And as I noted in last month's report, we happen to have a lot of those in the fall. So, that ebb and flow of different things, surgeries people have, that can drive that quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I would say 2.2% is, it's almost not worth drawing attention to, but it is where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions about the monthly performance report?
No.
Great. I said this would be short and I keep going on. But anyway, the credit rating update. So as we've communicated previously, the administration is preparing to sell the second round of, we call them bonds. Technically, they're promissory notes, but very few school districts actually sell bonds anymore. Most, they're considered notes, but under statute, they're considered the same thing. Anyways, we are preparing to sell the next $26.25 million in notes that are tied to the November referendum. And in fact, we received notice today that based on market conditions, we're going to sell them tomorrow. So we will be engaged in that process. And then by the end of tomorrow, we'll know exactly what interest rate the district was able to secure for those notes. As part of that process, and in the hopes of securing favorable interest rates, you always go through a credit rating update process ahead of that sale. So we did this last March before the first sale, and then right before Christmas time, we were engaged in another review by S&P. It involved a number of documents being shared with S&P. The superintendent and I had a pretty comprehensive interview with analysts from S&P. And then, as expected, the district maintained its AA rating. Back in March, we improved our rating from AA minus to AA. This was maintaining the AA was what we anticipated. Financial health continues to be strong, but S&P or any rating agency is very, very, very rarely going to upgrade someone's rating twice in the same year. It actually reflects poorly on them that they didn't get it right the first time. So we were happy to see that we're stable at that AA rating. That puts the district in the top fifth of all school districts in the state rated by S&P in terms of our rating. So we should be in a good position to secure the best possible rate available when those sell tomorrow. As you may recall, during the last sale, when you put together the interest rates for each note cumulatively, the total interest rate was 4.42%, which was 0.33% below what we had communicated in pre-referendum communications. So off of the first sale, we reduced potential interest to the district by $8 million, which is excellent to hear. We are hopeful that we can secure a strong interest rate tomorrow to make that $8 million grow even a little bit more. It's not going to grow a substantial amount because it's a much smaller principal amount compared to the first sale, but every little bit of interest saved is a victory for us. So we'll be eagerly watching that tomorrow. And three of you right here, Mrs. Zergott, Mr. Zweigert, Mr. Pickler, I'll be in contact with you because as officers of the board, we'll have a whole bunch of signatures that you get to apply, but you get to do it electronically at least. So we'll be in touch to tidy up all the loose ends as the sale concludes. And then in 2 weeks, when we have another board meeting, I'll report back to the community and to the board of where that sale ended up. The last section here just talks about future discussion. We're coming up on being able to provide that short and long-term forecasting information, so there's some detail there. But that concludes my report for today.
Great, thank you. Board members, any questions? All right, we appreciate the update. Thank you very much. Next report is our superintendent's report. Superintendent Wimmer.
You heard our students talk about the Violins of Hope concert, so I would just like to add special thanks to the West Bend Public Schools Foundation for helping to make that event what it was. They supported the financial pieces of that. They sent our U.S. history students, art, music, et cetera, students on field trips to the Milwaukee Holocaust Museum to have background knowledge, put together pieces of that show that wouldn't have been possible without the leadership of Scott Lone and Ralph Schloss, who on our end were coordinating and working across departments and teachers. So a special thank you to them. And then also just a note that the West Bend schools are the only school district in Wisconsin to host such a large display. I know there's another neighboring school district that's going to have one, and they're going to receive one violin. We had 14 violins on display in our lobby, and each one accompanied by a biography of the owners and that history. So it was a really meaningful event. So just a thank you to the high school students, the staff and art band, orchestra, and choir for their contributions to the event as well. Reminder to families and our public that it's enrollment season for 4K and 5K or kindergarten. So you can visit online. You can register right online, wbsd4k.org, in advance of next year. So a reminder that we have 4K classrooms this coming year at Green Tree Elementary because the Rolfs Education Center is closing. So all of our 4K locations include Green Tree Elementary School, several YMCA sites, including Trinity Lutheran and Camp Silverbrook, the West Washington campus, and Holy Trinity in Newburgh, as well as the West Bend Outdoor Science Education Center, in addition to Jackson Community Center and Living Word Child Development Center, also in Jackson. So check us out online and get your registration going. For students who are already enrolled with us in 4K, they don't have to enroll new. They roll forward into their attendance area school for kindergarten. But you can also enroll as a new student to the district in kindergarten, so you would enroll as well. So you can check that out online. You can always connect with any one of our schools, our principals, our programs for a tour to learn more or visit our website. And again, we'd encourage you to reach out. So not only is coming to school new, but that transition up to high school is exciting. You heard the students talk about the upcoming event on January 21st. It's the Gearing Up for High School event. So all of our students and faculty really kind of roll out the red carpet for students and focus on preparing them for all aspects of high school. So especially academic, but they also have a resource folder with things about different courses. There's faculty that where you can go visit classrooms, see programs in action. You can learn about co-curriculars, athletics, and just so much more. So you'll hear from administrators, teachers, before being able to do a self-guided tour of the building. So we encourage you to mark your calendars for that Gearing Up for High School event Wednesday, January 21st. And also, I would like to just reiterate our congratulations on behalf of administration of the board for 7 of our teachers who recently earned National Board Certification. Again, it's one of the highest professional honors in education. Recipients include Allison Guzan, kindergarten teacher at Fair Park; Rebecca Soames, special education teacher at Fair Park; Kevin Dornick, math teacher at Silverbrook; Krista Koenigs, math teacher at Silverbrook; Haylor Doherty, English at East; Danny Schumacher, English teacher at West; Mitch Ziesmer, a West science teacher. So just for perspective, achieving National Board Certification demonstrates exceptional teaching practices and a deep commitment to student learning, and only about 3% of teachers nationwide achieve the distinction. So our congratulations and our thanks for them being an attention to their professional practice and what they bring to our classrooms every day. With that, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions regarding Superintendent Wimmer's report? All right, hearing none. Thank you for the report. We move then to,
Oh, it's all mean.
I was just going to say, we have an information item, and it's the annual parental notice of district educational options.
This certainly is procedural in nature, but I just wanted to call it out as a standalone item because we're obligated to put notices in. You can see that the notice is largely what we had last year, just updating the dates. And we are required by multiple statutes to notify our community of educational options. So that includes also a ranking of our schools and additional information. So this notice meets all the requirements, and then we would move forward with posting that in the paper, putting it on our website, et cetera. So I just wanted to call that out so that you knew that we were in attention to this. It is an annual item.
Great. Any questions, board members? All right, we appreciate the heads up. We move then to discussion items. And their first discussion item is enrollment projections for open enrollment seats. Superintendent Wimmer.
So these are calculated annually. The board is required to take action in January. We'll have a discussion here, and if there's no pending questions, et cetera, outstanding items, you could consider putting this as a consent agenda for the next meeting. We are required by statute to declare how many seats are available in the district in our regular education programming as well as our special education programming. Those are calculated using caseloads, existing classroom space, and then you actually kind of leave room in your enrollment for students who are moving in and are residents of the district. So we don't change our class sizes. We don't not allow room for that growth in those pieces. So they're a very conservative number of seats. One thing that we changed this year was just tightening it up. Usually you see the words unlimited for K4 and K5, but we put plenty of seats there, far more than what we receive requests for. Just, I think it's a little bit more understandable to the general public if you declare a number of seats there. So while it looks like a lot of seats, outside of K4 and K5 or a kindergarten program, it's 65 seats, which is the same amount as last year. They might fall in different grade levels. In addition, we'll be adding the statement, while there's not room on our caseloads for special education services, there are some opportunity for students who receive speech and language service only, and we are allowed to kind of welcome those students and declare them separately. So they're not receiving a larger continuum of service for special education, but speech and language. So we would make that designation, and the board would then formally approve those seats. They go on the website, they go into your minutes of what was approved. The open enrollment window opens a little bit later in spring, runs largely through the end of the year, and we would encourage non-residents to apply to our district. We have a lot to be proud of, so I'm certain we're attractive to people looking for opportunities for their students. Any questions on calculations or the seats that are open or how that works?
I think you've talked about this, excuse me, in the past, but there are some grades like third grade where there's a number like 20, and there's a grade like sixth grade where there's only 2. You can just explain to the public that that is variable for various reasons.
Sure, it's variable because we are looking at our current class sizes, and again, we don't make decisions that would extend or expand our class sizes in any way. In fact, we undercut it on purpose to leave room for growth. We're obligated for any student who moves in at any grade level to have a seat for them. So these are just where we might have an excess of seats. You'll also notice I don't declare which school. Because they may receive, they might put in, I want to go to Decorah, for this, and, third grade, I see you have these seats, but, I might not have that opening, so I might be able to say yes to a spot in the district at that grade, but that can fluctuate as well. So, and again, all conservative estimates that don't negatively impact the students of our community that we're currently serving.
I appreciate that reminder that if we have parents that move into the district with their children, we'll educate them.
Automatic
Right,
seats.
this is open
Yep.
enrollment.
Correct.
Yeah, great. Other questions? Mr. Pickler?
So I would assume that if we have kids that open and roll out, that doesn't add to these numbers? Like if,
No, so we have those in attention, and then you don't shift those. But if I had more than applications, those kinds of things, you can look at that. But no, because that's happening concurrently sometimes, so we might factor in those who are open enrolled. Once you're accepted in our district, you're accepted. You don't have to reapply every year, so it's not something that's constantly shifting sands for you.
Thank you. Other questions? Right, so this is a discussion item. This would come up for action on a future board agenda. We talked about the idea of adding this to the consent agenda. Board members, would there be an objection to including it on the consent agenda next time? Any concerns? That's fine.
Great.
Why don't we mark it
We'll do so.
to handle it that way? Great, and we can always pull it off the consent agenda if there are questions. We'll move then to the next item, which is the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, or WASB, Delegate Assembly Proposed 2026 Resolutions.
Yeah, so it was a little unique this year. WASB changed their format of how they put together the resolutions. There's actually 2 parts. There's a unique thing. There are, if you look at that packet, there's some distinct resolutions that they're advocating. Our team went through them to look at impact on our school district. Largely, we are aligned with the WASB proposed language on those resolutions. There were some amendments introduced that might be a little bit more unique to other school districts or might have some narrow language. We're largely aligned and would feel comfortable with the recommendation going with the WASB aligned language in those cases. And there's multiple topics, but it just seemed, there was some elements added. We're all comfortable with those pieces. Any questions on the resolution piece?
Questions?
I think there was.
June, go
I
ahead.
think there was one that they were opposing. There was, like number 11 and, wait. There were 2 towards the end that were 100%, like 180, I guess, of each other. And I don't think we would support both of them. So I'd be looking for things that WASB supports and then WASB opposes. Okay, that's clear.
Correct,
Got it,
yeah.
yeah. That is a little confusing, but
They
I
are,
get
but-
where they're going.
Right. We'd be going with the WASB aligned
It was be aligned. Okay.
pieces. Then something unique and new this year, you're accustomed to seeing resolutions, receiving that information, and kind of going through those and having this discussion. An amendment to the bylaws does not come up often, but it is being introduced in this session, so we should have a little conversation around that. And I'll explain that the proposed amendment is to create levels of membership in the organization, and it's done so strategically. You saw maybe a couple of years ago, there was some political pieces and advocacy pieces that were coming through this organization that really caused many member districts to step out. It was at odds perhaps with their community, and they it was either a yes or no, because right now membership is you're in or you're out in the organization. So the school district that proposed this amendment is seeking that you can have levels of membership so they could retain access to things like the policy series, our conventions, all of those access pieces, but they would not engage in voting or some of the advocacy pieces. So it allows them to draw a clear line and shift their dues so that their dues are only paying for all the services and not the advocacy pieces. So that is what they are seeking in the organization, so that there might be tiered membership so that they could step out of some of those pieces. So it certainly is in alignment with the board's thoughts on retaining local control and our board doing those pieces, but it creates an organization where you have some voting members, some not. So it's really up to the team on kind of what you feel to help inform June.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, I think you explained it well, just so I read back so I understand it. With regard to their advocacy activities, you could subscribe to a lesser subscription where you don't pay for that, but in return, you don't get to vote on it either.
Correct.
On the one hand, that makes sense in the sense that, look, I'm just looking to subscribe to the policy series, right? Basically to use them as a documented resource. On the other hand, that I would think that would make for some awkward meetings because you'd have, well, here's the direction that we're going. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm just curious what others feel.
They were talking about it would be interesting on the logistics end, and I don't know, it'd be interested to know, do they need this piece first to open up that runway where you can figure out the logistics? Because our fiscal years don't align to your election years, so you have different boards, so you reseat your board on the fourth Monday of April. Our fiscal years are July 1 through June. It would be easy. They talk about retaining networking, so even though you might have difference in opinion on maybe some advocacy pieces, you still retain a strong network and can participate in regional meetings to have that diverse opinion and dialogue. But to me, it just brought up some logistics of, well, how are they going to make that work? It's easy to say, okay, these districts can be at the table, as June will be here in June, to vote on resolutions. But like, how and when are you going to declare that was just an interesting question to me that I don't know that I fully grasp.
Other thoughts? June?
I'm sure there's some districts who are just trying to save every penny, and this is an easy way for them to save so that more money goes to the classrooms. When you're going to referendum for operational referendums and you can barely keep the lights on, that's a position I would not want to be in, and I would be looking at all options to cut every dollar or save every dollar we could. So, but I don't even know as a board if we do that much advocacy at the...
They're doing it on your behalf. So you're influencing them, but part of our dues and those pieces, they certainly are advocating at that next level. So that is a piece of it. But I'd be hard pressed to think of some of the catalysts. But like I said, you saw a lot of people step out and feel like that they didn't have a reentry point, that some of the things were at odds with their local control and where their community wanted to go. We have that avenue in our advocacy with our vote when you look at resolutions, and largely we're aligned with recommendations, so we haven't been as at odds, but this would create space for people to still have that network and belonging and resources that they can either afford or support.
I think my thought is, not to say, well, June, it's up to you. I mean, my thought is, I can see how this would work. I can see how it would work. I guess the question that I would have is, if they're going to talk about it, if they think, wow, there are going to be so many people who take this option that essentially there is not going to be any advocacy left, that might be an issue to think about. But otherwise, yeah, why wouldn't you have the option? I, like you, can understand a district that, look, I really want the policies and I want the library, but I don't want the advocacy and having those issues. And I think unless, when they explain it, if you look at it and think, this is just structurally not going to work, I guess it's okay.
Kind of with that, if I think about that sentiment, we are not directly opposed to other districts seeking involvement and support and networking, but making sure that the due diligence is done around the logistics of it and that it does not somehow weaken the
Right.
organization as we know it.
Exactly.
And making sure those guardrails are in place prior to kind of giving voice to, like
Yeah.
I said, we don't lie in opposition on it, but we also want some checks and balances on
Yeah, because
this going forward.
exactly, because what remains has to be functional.
Does that help, June? Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Just a comment,
Yeah.
I'm sure from WASB's perspective, it sounds like they lost some dues revenue, so they're probably trying, this is a way to recapture some of that.
Also true.
So, yeah, I'm kind of with you. I don't know if I care about that. If other districts want to have access to the resources, pay a lower amount, not pay for the advocacy, I don't know why I guess I would have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I'd be curious what the percentage of the dues is for advocacy versus whatever else they get.
And I think that that's something that would then further need to come back to our board. So let's say this goes through, they tighten that up, then for the first time, we'd be looking at and saying, okay, now given this in this range, how do we want to engage in that? And that might change how we do things too. I don't anticipate that, but it might. I think once they have that opportunity and option, then we need to bring that back to our board
Yeah.
to have that discussion.
I think that's fair. And you bring up a good point, that there is benefit that if there were some districts that withdrew and if they had the option to do the library and the access to the policies, et cetera, and now join back in, that may have benefit to the other members, because otherwise fewer members may have to raise dues. More members, we pay less. So there's some advantage there, but I think you captured it well. I think it's just a matter of, if they explain it in such a way that, yes, what remains can still be effective and functional, then I think it would be okay. And I think it's also worthy of, well, then let's reexamine, once those options are available, what works for us.
Absolutely.
Other thoughts? Clear as mud, June? Thank you for being our advocate there as well, our representative. Thank you. All right, if there's nothing else on that item, we move to the next item, high school's configuration and planning for engagement. Superintendent Wimmer.
So we are stepping into the engagement window now through February. We'll be convening community meetings and then some focus groups around the high school's configuration. One of the pieces that we talked about was the development of a survey that would go far and wide and into the community. We would host that ourselves versus an outside agency. So I've drafted kind of the large items that we talked about. And again, we'll probably do a circular reference in that survey to lead people back to our videos. I would see us putting together a page where it links into if I need to learn more. Because again, if you're developing a survey, it's going out to people who may or may not have students in our schools, community members, et cetera. So I attempted to kind of summarize in the section, tell me about the academic program. Tell me about what makes our high school unique, because they may or may not realize. Tell me about athletics and what's there. So tried to kind of precede each section with a little bit of background. And then again, I'll create a circular reference into where they can get more information, as well as contacting me directly. And then maybe what those dates are for some of those community forums, so they could be right in there embedded. But then tried to just have some open-ended questions for people's perceptions so that the board can utilize that data on kind of their thoughts around all those different pieces of configuration.
I like the question, I like the direction. I too thought some of them might beg for just a little bit more rich kind of background, or here's what we have today. And it's hard, this is a summary
I had
document.
it, and then it got so long
I get it.
in some of those pieces to try and explain from scratch. So that's why I was thinking maybe kind of creating a page and doing that circular reference to drive them to a little bit more information.
They would drill down,
And maybe
kind
I
of.
can embed it where it's like they don't have to go and learn more, maybe by section. Maybe I do those little quick hits where they can see that piece of the board meeting. Here's, that slide deck with a narrative a little bit more. So it's, because maybe they know some parts but not others. Maybe busting it up that way, so it's there when they need it.
Yeah, likely few people want to take a 700-page survey.
No, they don't.
I get it. But I do think I learned a lot through through that exploration process, and maybe if there is a way to link it off to the side that if someone wants to drill down or find out more information, that might be helpful.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll start foreshadowing that this is coming. We have an open survey right now around our counseling services. That doesn't close till the 19th, so I would just get ready for launch and then open it once that one closes. I don't want two competing surveys out in the field right now. So I can just prepare. So if you want to take another look, and if you've got feedback in the interim where we might have missed something or tweaking something, just let me know. But I'll set up some of those pieces and maybe send out some tests and have some people test it. And let's see, I've certainly done that already with this draft, but we can explore that a little bit more. So we're ready to launch. I think that in this case, we're going to see the most robust participation when we get focus groups together specifically around athletics and what that means, because that's the largest implication in the configuration currently.
Makes sense. Board members, other thoughts? Any other feedback that you need to proceed to next steps?
Nope, I'll start foreshadowing and getting that ready with those supplementary resources, and then we'll open that up the week of the 19th as soon as that one closes.
Okay. Excellent.
Thank
All right. Next on our agenda, we discuss our board meeting calendar. And on our board meeting calendar, we have board meetings scheduled for January 6th and February 9th, both 5:30 p.m. at the Education Service Center. Curriculum Committee would next meet on February 3rd at 4:30 p.m. Education Service Center. And the Policy Committee is scheduled to meet on February 17, 4 p.m. at the Education Service Center. And we encourage the public to look for the official meeting postings in case the time or the date or the location may have changed. Anything to add or correct on the calendar? Next, we have items for follow-up and communication. The only item that I had was adding to the consent agenda the open enrollment projections item next time, and I think you took note of that. Any other items for follow-up and communication?
Just I'll continue to add that standing item around high school configuration. So at present, we're talking about launch of survey, community groups, et cetera. And one other piece that I should have cleared by then, this week is my last elementary school meeting. I've been meeting with those school communities about elementary boundaries for the future once we reconfigure. So once I have that last school's feedback, I'll be able to put together a recommendation for the board around that configuration and review.
Sounds good. June?
So it's January, so I was curious if there's any, I noticed it wasn't a discussion item on today's agenda, but the calendar for the 26-27 school year, is that coming? Will
Yep.
that be on next agenda?
So that calendar committee, it went out in our district news today. That calendar committee has convened. They came up with a draft based on staff feedback. So they went out and surveyed staff around some opportunities and options. That draft went out to staff today. That calendar committee reconvenes on the 14th, and we anticipate that coming before you at the next board meeting for review and action.
Great. Good question. Other items to discuss? All right, hearing none, we have an item or items that are appropriate to discuss in executive session. So I'd move to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851C to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and take any such action if necessary based on its discussion, namely compensation, base wage negotiation, and employment. Is there a second? All right, Melanie, we'll give that one to you. Thank you. We have a motion and second to adjourn into executive session. Any final discussion? All right, hearing none, I believe this requires a roll call vote, so I'll turn to my roll call sheet. Mr. Swigert votes yes. Mr. Pickler? Yes. Mr. Jenkins is absent. Ms. Kruger?
Yes.
Dr. Temez is absent. Ms. Ergot? Yes. And Ms. Lang?
Yes.
Great, thank you. We are officially adjourned into executive session. Thank you to those who attended in person or watched from home. We look forward to seeing you at a future meeting.